All right, trying to let everybody kind of get a chance to join, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit more in detail about what we're expecting here this evening. I still got to get dressed for the newscast, so we won't be on too long here. But we do want to kind of go over what we're looking at here as far as a threat for severe weather here this evening. We're not looking at a super high end type of severe weather event, but there are some thunderstorms that are developing, are trying to develop. They've been trying to develop over the last couple of hours now, and they are starting to try to develop out west. There's been some attempts down to the south, and let me give this a chin. Let me make this a little bit bigger here for us. Everybody can see it here. Let me get back to my. All right, so I'm going to go on here and hit play. So you may not see, but we won't be able to see some stuff. That's okay though. So let's go here so everybody can see the screen. All right, so here's what we got going on right now. We've seen some attempts of around the area of storms trying to develop. You can see some of these kind of south of Jacksboro, and there's another one over here to the west of Bowie. So far, these storms aren't all that intense. The atmosphere, the type of ingredients you need for these to become real severe, like become supercells, you just don't see quite enough what we call wind shear in the atmosphere yet. That means the upper level wind patterns aren't quite strong enough yet to cause these things to turn to become strong enough to become what we call supercells here. When they become supercells, the updrafts start to turn a bit here, and that's when they start getting stronger. And that's when they're able to produce bigger hail and stronger wind gusts, that kind of stuff. But right now, we're not really seeing that. But we do see some cells down here south of Jacksboro. The main concern, at least early on, because there is enough what we call instability or storm energy in the atmosphere to help these things produce a little hail. So maybe a little hail with some of these storms down towards Perrin to the south of Jacksboro. You can see some of this developing back towards PK and south of Graham, kind of over into that area. And these storms aren't moving very quickly. They're kind of just drifting off to the east, northeast there, moving over Perrin. They'll probably stay, at least initially, stay south of Jacksboro. And here's a couple storms developing over here in the southern parts of Clay County. Kind of west-northwest of Bowie. And these may drift over the 287 area up towards Bellevue and may drift over into parts of Monte County. But the overall nature for these storms have been for them to kind of pulse up and kind of pulse down a bit. So they may weaken some. They may redevelop in other areas. Now, I will say that the atmospheric winds, the upper level wind patterns are a little bit stronger now coming in from the west. And you can see that by the behavior of this attempted thunderstorm. So what's happened with this here, this is a little shower that developed up northwest of Vernon. This got what we call sheared apart. Or at least that's the way it looks to me anyway. It looks like it got sheared apart. And by being sheared apart, it just means that the upper level winds are a little bit stronger over here, and the updraft wasn't quite strong enough to maintain it. So it kind of tore it apart a bit. So, but we're going to watch. So you can almost see a little boundary over in here, and you can see that line that stretches from about Altus down to about Kroll in those areas here. And what we expect to happen, and you can see other little showers trying to develop too, would be for a couple of isolated thunderstorms to develop along or out ahead of this little boundary here this evening. And as the upper level wind currents from out west, and you can kind of see where you're seeing some radar returns back over here towards Matador and those areas. But as that kicks in, that's what we call ascent. It causes the atmosphere to lift up here some. And as that occurs, you're going to see the storms, I think, begin to kind of take off a bit. There should be some stronger storms along it. Matter of fact, you can look up to the north, and there's some pretty decent storms up towards Oklahoma City trying to form now. And you can kind of see a little bit more organization that kind of shows where the stronger wind shear is. So as storms develop here this evening, and you can see the storms down towards the southern parts of Clay County have gotten a little bit more organized too here. So we'll have to watch out and see if they start generating any hail down towards the Bowie area and south of Henrietta, maybe even up towards Nacona. Weather information has been a bit mixed this afternoon and this evening here. Some weather information which has been really good, has been really kind of hitting this area over in here with thunderstorm development. Other has it along this boundary over in here. I will say that our weather computer models are not as good with the development of the moisture that we see. It's pretty humid outside as what we're actually seeing. So the storms are going to have a bit of a better chance to be a little bit more severe. But as of right now, I'm thinking these storms over this way are going to be the strongest for now. And we'll see what can get going along this boundary over here. Main concern is going to be hail. And not everybody early on gets a thunderstorm. So if you're going to high school football games early on this evening, as of right now, you're going to be okay. But just watch out for those storms. Remember the First Alert 6 weather app. Have that with you so you can get those alerts and keep up with what's going on the radar. And remember, if there's lightning in the area, they will postpone those games. So my thought process here in all of this is where I drew my severe risk here for this evening. I've kind of got it drawn out ahead of that little Bear Clinic boundary. Um, I may need to kind of perhaps maybe expand this a bit down into this area here too. But this may wind up being your area that gets, at least early on, the biggest storms. But we're also going to watch again back into this area here too for possible development as well. Main concern again will be hail and some gusty winds. The low level wind shear isn't ideal for tornadoes. You really got to have, when you're dealing with tornadoes, you got to have a way for them to spin in the lower parts of the atmosphere. And usually that happens when you have what we call strong wind shear in place and the lowest levels of the atmosphere, or sometimes you'll have a little thunderstorm boundary or something like that will help them spin. And there are some boundaries in the area that might help them spin a little bit. So that tornado threat, not particularly high, but it isn't at zero. So we'll keep an eye on it. Matter of fact, Weatherman Cam just got here, and he and Jacob are getting ready to go out in the storm tracker. So they'll be keeping an eye on it here this evening. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. If we go back to the radar again, these storms kind of down to the south and kind of southeast of Wichita Falls are the best ones on radar, but they're not severe right now. And the storms that were trying to develop over towards Vernon have gotten sheared apart. That's where your stronger wind shear is. So the storms that kind of off to the southeast are kind of away from the better wind shear. That's what they would need to help those updrafts really lift and really take off. If those storms can develop and that stronger upper level wind field can get there in time, they may try to kick off some too. So we'll have to just kind of wait and see how it all plays out here early on this evening here. So I'm gonna throw some model data on, and we'll take a look at that here. This is showing the radar, and it kind of shows what it might look like over the next hour. And you can see it just really didn't. The latest radar really isn't developing a whole lot here. Latest model data anyway, that only goes out the next hour. Let's try to expand that out over the next 3 hours and see what happens with that there. So yeah, there it is. So it finally caught up. So there we are over the next 3 hours, and you can see by 6 o'clock, here's that boundary, and you can see those storms developing right there along it. And again, this is model data, and that would show some pretty nasty thunderstorms there. Lawton down to Wichita Falls, and kind of expanding a little bit east from there. That would be some pretty nasty storms there with hail risk, maybe some wind risk, maybe a very low end tornado risk there, maybe Stevens County, maybe down to the Red River. We'll keep an eye on that though and let you know how all that plays out. So that is what we got for right now anyway. I'm going to try to answer a few questions here, and why don't we bring up Weatherman Cam? He's feeding his face over there, and this is Jacob over here for you guys who haven't seen him. Of course, I'm sure you've seen him by now. He's been on air for a little while here. So, Weatherman Cam, what's your thoughts? Where are you wanting to go? Come over here and discuss it. You can feed your face. I don't know what you eat. Some ice cream there.
It's like peanut butter.
You're just eating regular peanut butter.
Just eating regular peanut butter.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I like that. That's a good source of protein.
Exactly. It keeps me full. I think you're missing a lot of things right now.
Well, right now you are, but that doesn't mean that we won't be in 2 or 3 hours from now.
Right. Yeah. So, you got storms going now, but that warm front went really far north, so that was something we thought would spin them some.
Yeah, that would help. Yeah. Yep.
So I think it's kind of, I'll say a waiting game per se, but it's kind of wait and see how these kind of develop and see if they can sustain, because we've seen multiple attempts for a little bit now, and they haven't really taken off quite yet. So,
well, I've got the radar pulled up here, and for
still east. What happened to one near Vernon?
It got sheared apart. It got sheared apart. That's where your strongest, I believe, where your strongest wind shear is. It got sheared apart. And if we kind of look here at the radar data itself, let me pull this
that
off.
Being said, you need to get your updrafts to sustain before they hit that shear.
So if you look over here, look at the behavior. Of course, the RRFS was showing these storms, and and if we do wind up with a lot of widespread storms, it could zap the energy out of the atmosphere. But you can see these are multicellular; those are not supercells. You can tell they're not in a very high shear environment, but they're really taking off. But you get back here, and it was a nice cell that was developing west of Vernon. But look how it got sheared apart. And there's your ascent. There's your upper level ascent. Your mid-level jet is beginning to nose in from the west. There's a little development there.
Is that a boundary there?
That is that little Bear Clinic boundary. Yes, it's some type of a boundary. It's not a cold front. It's just kind of a little Bear Clinic boundary that's kind of moving across the area. But that's what the models are showing developing there this evening, is along that boundary there.
So is it possible that as that pushes further off to the east, that could continue to see more developments as it pushes off?
Well,
to
the latest HER model does show that. The latest HER model
Yeah.
shows this boundary finally producing storms over here between now and 6 o'clock, kind of in this area here, and it really takes them off up in here. But again, if you wind up getting a lot of activity over here, it could wind up chewing up the atmosphere some. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see. But my thoughts are,
So let me
you
ask you
guys,
this really quick here.
Yeah, go
When
ahead.
it comes to forcing at this time, what's forcing these things off to the east compared to, say, central and western?
all right. So the Bear Clinic zone boundary is really, I think this is warm air advection causing that. Honestly,
Yeah.
I really think that's what it is. There's no cap out there too.
I mean, your best stuff right now is kind of sitting near the Seymour and Knox City area because that's where your highest cape is at this time.
Yeah, and that's where your upper level jets kind of over there too. And that's what you're seeing there.
Something else I noticed too. Something else I noticed. I was in Iowa Park for the homecoming parade. Is that surface winds are coming out of the due east at this point in time. So is it possible if you get too many storms too, where you could see rain cooled air sink out and push off to the west?
You could, we'll have to wait and see if it just starts generating outflow boundaries. Right now, that's not impacting anything to the west yet. But if you get a lot of it, it would. So that would limit our severe threat further west. I know the Weather Service just mentioned that the threat for tornadoes could be a bit higher up here in central and southern Oklahoma this evening because the moisture content's better than what the models were showing. And they say there's just enough low-level wind shear to allow these storms to turn a bit this evening, which, we've looked at the photographs and we've looked at the models, and they do show that bit of a curvature there in the lower parts of the atmosphere. But there appears to be, to me, a little bit of a weakening, a little bit of a weak layer around 700 millibars, which is around 10,000 feet. And that makes the photographs not quite as elongated or quite as curved as they should have been. So there you go, right there. So you got a little thunderstorm development down near Kroll. So, and you actually kind of see it here also, kind of west-northwest of Vernon. That's but you can see how that's kind of that's
something that, so I call that pancaking out.
Yeah.
It's just everything is getting toppled over. Your updrafts are getting toppled right now.
Yeah, it's got pushed. That's got pushed there. It shows better wind shear. So that could get sheared apart too. But eventually these things are going to take off. There's enough instability. There's some just north of Wichita Falls there too. So looks like things are about to take off. So in the tracker, where would you want to go right now? I'm not worried about this stuff down here.
East is out of play right now. East is not a concern at all right now for us sort of storm chase purposes. We could stay close, or we also keep an eye on this boundary and kind of play with this boundary as it pushes off to the east.
Why don't we just keep you guys in and kind of play it by ear, because they're not moving that quickly, and y'all can make wherever you needed to here pretty soon. We could,
a 45-minute trip.
we could get there pretty fast. So
East of Vernon.
yeah.
I
So
want to make sure things are able to sustain before we.
yeah, we don't want to go on a wild goose chase here. So but we'll keep an eye on that and see how all that plays out. I got to go get dressed for the newscast, but we're going to see how all that plays out here.
Is it possible this boundary you said Bear Clint, but could it be an outflow from this stuff off to the west?
It could be. That might be. It's possible. I don't think it is, though. I don't think it's
shower activity all day long.
Yeah, I don't. It could be a differential heating boundary or something. I don't know, though. I don't think it really is. I'm not sure what that is. If there was a lot of thunderstorm over here, I would think it was an outflow boundary, but I'm not sure what it is, to be honest. Be honest about it. But that's what's helping the storms fire. Whatever that is helping to push them. So let's make sure there's nothing new coming in from our friends at the Weather Service here.
Let's see.
They're talking about up towards Norman. They're not really saying anything else. So right now, so no watch. I do think a severe thunderstorm watch will be issued though this evening. So all right. So yeah, I'm thinking the largest hailstone is probably quarter size, maybe up to golf balls, but mostly quarter size. So all right, well, we'll keep an eye on things. I've got to go. I got to get dressed for the newscast. We'll keep an eye on things here this evening and just be looking for the updates on our Facebook